Chapter 116, Major Breakthrough. This is. Numerous gazes matched with each other before all of them focused at the jade-green translucent crystal. You said that you've already succeeded in crystallizing the green giant potion? Manager Frank was panting excitedly when he heard this, no longer as calm as before. That's right. Feng Lin nodded. This is the end product of me using the perfected crystallization medicine creation technique on the green giant potion. You've actually succeeded. Frank couldn't help but walk nearer. With a wave of his hand, the clone soldiers retreated, no longer having any intentions to capture Feng Lin. What was their earlier excuse? Not a child of God? Was that important? At this moment, Feng Lin had undoubtedly proved his talent. Transforming into a child of God was merely a process through the divine blood ritual. How could these two matters be compared at all? Seeing how excited Frank looked, Matsushita Onijin knew that things were getting extremely dire for him. He didn't expect Feng Lin to have such a trump card up his sleeve. Earlier, he had intentionally fawned on Feng Lin to get into his good books. He initially thought that Feng Lin had trusted him completely. He didn't expect Feng Lin to hide something like this. How ruthless! Matsushita Onijin glared at Feng Lin with hatred. He gritted his teeth as a chill involuntarily rose in his heart. Although this brat was young, he was extremely scheming. Now, this was already the last name to be called out. It was either he died or Feng Lin died. But could he really win against him? A great sense of unease arose in Matsushita Onijin's heart. For the sake of his life, he wasn't willing to sit here and just wait for death. He leaped out again and pointed at Feng Lin. For this green giant potion, Feng Lin clearly already succeeded with his experiments before this, or it would be impossible for him to take it out so quickly. Why was he intentionally hiding this before? He clearly is harboring unfathomable motives in his heart. Manager Frank, team leader Yak, you guys absolutely must not believe him. One couldn't help but say that he had pinpointed the exact crucial point. Earlier, everyone felt that the crystallization technique had failed, yet Feng Lin actually took out a perfected product to protect his life. Wasn't this too much of a coincidence? This naturally caused many people to have doubts in their hearts. Manager, you have to consider carefully. Yak spoke. Frank hesitated. He stared at Feng Lin. Feng Lin, seems like you owe us an explanation. His eyes were cold. If Feng Lin couldn't give a reasonable explanation, he would surely be in for it. However, since Feng Lin dared to take out the crystallized green giant potion at this moment, he naturally had already considered this. I didn't take this out earlier because the crystallization technique isn't matured yet. I took medicinal ingredients home to research and experiment on them every day. I only succeeded a single time after hundreds of tries. This was why I was still focused on perfecting the technique. I wanted to wait for it to be fully matured before I report this up. Although this reason sounded a little forced, it did have a few hints of credibility. Frank's tense expression also relaxed. Feng Lin continued, everyone here can be my witness that I diligently did my research and experiments every day. All the researchers fell silent. They naturally could refute it, but the truth would definitely already been captured by the monitoring equipment in the underground laboratory. It was useless even if they wanted to lie. However, it was naturally impossible that they would speak out on behalf of Feng Lin. In the end, they could only choose to remain silent. But remaining silent was also a type of silent admission. Frank was very clear on this point. He walked toward Feng Lin and took the jade-green crystal as he surveyed it. He didn't believe this completely. As for the actual effect, we would only know after we tested it. That's only natural. Feng Lin didn't try to explain anything. He acted like he was filled with immense confidence. Seeing how confident Feng Lin was, Frank couldn't help but regard Feng Lin even more highly. Yet, he didn't know that the true source of Feng Lin's confidence was his strength, and not this jade green crystal. In truth, he might have succeeded in crystallizing the green giant potion, but he hadn't tested it out yet. If this jade green crystal was effective, everything would naturally be great. He would continue with his pretense and wait for the opportunity to enter the mythological ruins of the Furnace Immortal sect. If the crystal wasn't effective, he would directly display his strength and kill his way out of here. Consume it. Frank placed the crystal into one of the clone soldier's hands as he commanded. The clone soldier didn't say anything in response and immediately ate it. With a rumbling sound, he swallowed the jade green crystal into his stomach. At the next instant, the clone soldier was clearly in an unusual condition. At his stomach area, a jade green energy that could be seen by the naked eye rapidly spread throughout his entire body. His skin turned translucent, and everyone could see the movement of the jade green energy within. Clones didn't really have high intelligence, but they did have some life instincts. Since the clone soldier was now in pain, he began to scream loudly. His muscles were trembling as that jade green energy fully coated him completely, dyeing him green inside out. However, this wasn't as simple as just a change in skin color. Ka ka ka. The sounds of creaking bones could be heard. The clone soldier swiftly expanded, growing taller and wider in girth. He reached a height that would cause people who looked at it to be dumbfounded. A few moments later, the clone soldier had transformed into a giant with greenish copper skin that was above 3 meters in height. He had a ferocious aura, causing one's heart to tremble if they looked at it. This was because it gave off the feeling that one was not looking at a clone human, but a terrifying beast instead. The eyes of the green giant were filled with a bloody light, exuding violence as he panted heavily. Frank had a look of wild joy on his face. He took out a ray gun and shot it at the green giant. The green giant didn't evade it. He simply stood at his original location. When the light rays blasted into him, the energy of the light ray was actually absorbed by the green giant's skin. Rumbling sounds rang out from within the green giant's body as he grew a little larger and more sturdy. Feng Lin coldly watched from the side. He discovered that this ability of the green giant was somewhat similar to his stone monkey gene's abilities. The stone monkey gene could isolate energy effects, while this green giant was actually able to absorb the radiation from the light ray to strengthen himself. As to what the exact ability was, Feng Lin could only wonder. Also, although the green giant gene might be a transcendent gene, it was forcibly awakened by the means of a genetic potion and would surely be inferior. The vitality stat of the green giant wouldn't be high and wouldn't surpass him by too much. Feng Lin set his heart at ease. Even if Frank controlled this green giant to attack him, he would also be able to deal with it. Also, Feng Lin even knew that there was a flaw in the green giant, and he would be able to subdue the green giant through this flaw. If Frank suddenly had malicious intentions, he would definitely be in for a great shock. Feng Lin, well done. With you around, our giant pharmaceutical company would definitely be able to make a comeback. Let's leave together. Frank patted Feng Lin on his shoulder and smiled. His earlier cold attitude had completely vanished as his recognition of Feng Lin grew even higher. The success of the crystallization technique on the green giant potion became the last straw that crushed the camel's back. The truth was before everyone's eyes. The crystallization technique was perfected. A truly capable person would always cause others to look at them differently. Feng Lin smiled and nodded. The two of them exchanged glances and laughed, as though all the unhappiness earlier was just a dream. Frank swept his gaze over, silently indicating the clone soldiers to move toward Matsushita Onijin. He is lying to you. Matsushita screamed with reluctance when he saw this scene. He struggled with all his might and hurriedly spoke. Maybe, he is the spy of the Mars Revolutionary Army. Why would the Mars Revolutionary Army know so many of our secrets? During these days, there's only a person who recently joined us. He barked like a mad dog and accidentally managed to guess the truth. Feng Lin, who had been extremely calm since the start, couldn't help but feel his heart trembling when he heard that. But sadly, Frank already couldn't be bothered to listen to Matsushita anymore. He waved his hand, and the clone soldiers proceeded to grab Matsushita and tossed him right into the lava. In just a few short moments, his screams faded to silence as he was burned to a crisp. Not even his bones were left. The other researchers didn't even dare to breathe heavily. They felt the sorrow of the hunting hounds being killed after all the hares were hunted. However, they felt more relief from surviving this incident. Feng Lin, don't mind him. He's only barking nonsense. Frank smiled and consoled Feng Lin. Let's go. I'll bring you to undergo the divine blood ritual now. Shouldn't we leave first? Feng Lin exclaimed in surprise. Frank's next words caused Feng Lin's heart to sink all the way down to the bottom. Don't worry, we still have time. Before we leave, we still have some things we need to settle and some things we want to bring away. We can conveniently help you undergo the divine blood ritual before we leave. Feng Lin wanted to reject, but when he noticed the sinister coldness in Frank's eyes, he didn't say anything. Sure. Feng Lin pretended to be extremely joyful. None of the feelings in his heart showed on his face. It seemed like the words spoken by Matsushita before his death wasn't completely useless. Frank still didn't completely believe in him. He wanted a last layer of insurance. As long as he transformed into a child of God, becoming someone of the white race, he would be on the same boat as them. At that time, they would naturally no longer need to worry about anything. Follow me. Frank spoke. He then opened up the metallic tunnel that led deep inside the core. The group of them followed after Frank. The lava here was isolated outside. Although the atmosphere was very hot, it wasn't to an unbearable extent yet. Very soon, everyone reached the last level. The door silently opened. This secret space was actually in the shape of a gigantic sphere. It was unknown from what materials were the surrounding walls constructed. It was airtight and completely isolated the lava outside. In the middle of the space, there was a large glass cabin. Inside, a silver-colored giant over 5 meters tall could be seen. The silver giant's muscles rippled with explosive power, and they were extremely taut. His skin was like marble, and he radiated a sense of imposingness. This silver giant was like a heavenly god that had descended to the mortal world. One would feel stifled the moment they moved nearer to it. This was a suppression due to the difference in vitality. Feng Lin had a look of shock on his face. His vitality stats had already reached 45.8, yet he still felt an extremely strong sense of threat from this silver giant. How high was the vitality stat of the giant exactly? An elite cultivator? Frank stared at Feng Lin's shocked look with satisfaction as a mysterious smile appeared on his face. Feng Lin, don't be startled. What you are seeing now is the greatest secret of our company. And that is God Creation Project. Chapter 117, God Creation Project. This was a giant over 5 meters tall. His skin was mottled, and there were veined patterns like marble. He had a simple-looking face with deep contours, but the muscular form of his physique was apparent to all. He exuded a sense of beauty that came from absolute strength and seemed like a perfect life form, like he was a heavenly deity from the legends. It's the mysterious figure from the recordings. Feng Lin silently called out in his heart. In the research recordings, he once saw a black shadow flashing past, crushing that test subject who had awakened the wings of wind and thunder effortlessly. Although he didn't see the face of that black shadow clearly, he would never be able to forget it. He only needed an instant to recognize the identity of the black shadow. Right now, the silver giant was floating inside the glass cabin, immersed in a faint red liquid akin to the amniotic fluid of a womb as he slept. His face was as calm as an innocent child, but an explosive might was contained within his body. Once it erupted out, it would surely be earth-shattering. God Creation Project. Fong Lin exclaimed in shock, recalling Frank's earlier words. That's correct. Frank had a look of passion on his face as he looked at this 5 meters tall giant. Titans are the gods of giants in Greek legends. They are the descendants of Mother Earth Gaia. The Titan gene is still lying dormant in our bodies, and after we fed the divine ancient medicine to the clones, some of them actually managed to awaken the Titan gene. This evolved Titan is the masterpiece of our giant pharmaceutical company. Hence, what we truly wish to do is to adjust the formula of genetic potions to replicate the effects of the ancient divine medicine, allowing ordinary humans to start on the path of becoming a Titan, slowly evolving to the point where they become full-fledged godlike Titans. The green giant gene is merely a mid-grade transcendent gene, and we do not regard that highly at all. Even if we succeed in that, the green giants at most can become foot soldiers. What we truly wish to achieve is to create a god. The more he spoke, the higher his tone and the more excited he seemed. Oh, I see. Fong Lin silently mused. The puzzlement in his heart finally received an answer. At this step, he finally came in contact with the largest secret of the giant pharmaceutical company. Who would have thought that their ambitions would be so great, actually wanting to create a god? Fong Lin didn't feel strange that the ancient divine medicine was able to cause someone to awaken the Titan gene. In truth, the ancient divine medicine was the grand mist fate pill. It was a divine medicine in ancient times, allowing humans to unleash their greatest potential. One must know that the wings of wind and thunder was the ability of the god of thunder, Thunderchild in ancient Chinese myths and legends. The capabilities of Thunderchild weren't in any way inferior to Titans and would far surpass the Titans. It was just that the particular test subject had a very weak body and was unable to fully exhibit the strength of the gene that was awakened. Fong Lin, follow me. After showing Fong Lin the magnificence of the sleeping Titan, Frank walked Fong Lin further into the depths of this place. Here, there was another gigantic glass cabin, but the liquid inside was a gleaming brilliant red, even shining with a platinum luster. However, the smell was horrible. This was clearly the blood of some unknown biological creature. Fong Lin, this is the divine blood ritual. Back then, I recruited you because of your deep understanding of myths and legends as well as your aptitude in genomics. If we wish to achieve our goal of humans creating gods, we have to absorb talent from everywhere and transform them into our own people. As long as you enter, you can change your weak bloodline into an incomparably esteemed one, the bloodline of children of God. At that time, you would officially become a part of us. Given your perfected crystallization technique, I'm sure it wouldn't be hard to crystallize the Titan genetic potion. You can use that to awaken the Titan gene yourself as you slowly evolve, moving closer and closer to the peak, on the path of becoming a true god. His hands were up in the air as a crazy look appeared on his face. Fong Lin was silently shocked. In the eyes of Frank, he actually saw hysterical madness. Truly a madman. He silently mused. Fong Lin, just enter. As long as you transformed into a child of God, you will be the same as us then. Frank solemnly issued an invitation. Fong Lin declined to comment and continued to walk ahead. At the same time, he also observed his surroundings. He felt that something was wrong. Wasn't this place supposed to be an ancient mythological ruin? Why did it look like a science laboratory? Could it be that he had guessed wrongly, or did Matsushita Onijin lie to him? Wrong. Feng Lin would never trust strangers blindly, let alone a Japanese man like Matsushita Onijin whose personality was like a jackal. During this period of time, he had sourced answers from the other researchers, asking them the same question as well. Their words undoubtedly verified what Matsushita Onijin had said. The hidden space in Mars's core was truly an ancient mythological ruin. Could it be that the secrets were all already shifted and hid away by the giant pharmaceutical company? As they moved nearer to the location of the divine blood ritual, his heart grew increasingly heavy. He couldn't wait any longer. How can I give up my bloodline to become someone of the white race? What child of God? My bloodline is from the yellow race, the descendants of dragons. Isn't this 10,000 times better than the so-called son of God? Feng Lin instantly punched out ruthlessly, exerting the entirety of his strength and also drawing more force from his anger. The punch force of this attack was extremely heavy, containing a forward momentum, wanting to smash his target completely. Boom! The dull sound akin to a giant bell getting hit rang out as the entire glass cabin trembled. Feng Lin was startled. This all-out punch by him had actually failed? It was unknown from what material this glass cabin was constructed, but it was extremely tough. Even with Feng Lin's strength, he was unable to break it. It felt even harder compared to alloys. Frank and the others were also startled. What are you doing? After recovering from his shock, Frank had a look of cold suspicion in his eyes. Feng Lin turned his head and spread his hands wide. He then smiled. Nothing much, I just want to see if I can break the glass cabin. Since the situation had come to this, there was no longer a need for him to hide anymore. What? What do you mean? Frank's eyes grew sinister as he stared fixedly at Feng Lin. He could feel that Feng Lin was different from before. A formless aura radiated from Feng Lin, like an innocent lamb shedding its skin and transformed into an evil wolf that desired to eat humans. Feng Lin calmly replied, "What do I mean? I just have no wish to become an egg human." These people instantly understood the comparison. In that case, everything before was just a pretense? Frank's expression grew extremely heavy. He thought back to the words Matsushita Onijin had said before his death. Are you really a spy of the Mars Revolutionary Army? No, Feng Lin shook his head. I'm just an ordinary person who doesn't wish to be involved in any of this. It's you guys who forced my hand. After hearing his words, Frank was startled. Feng Lin didn't seem to be lying. His expression relaxed a little as he changed the question. I was the one who hired you. Are you really planning to repay my kindness with enmity? Do you treat me as a 3-year-old kid? Don't tell me you don't know what's the real purpose for you to hire me? Right from the start, you have no intentions to allow me to return to Earth. You even want to change my ancestral bloodline and transform me into some dog's hit child of God. Sorry, I have no wish to become like these egg humans with soft backbones. Feng Lin sneered, his words extremely sharp, causing the faces of the other researchers to turn red with anger. Feng Lin also couldn't be bothered to speak too much with them. Those of different das wouldn't mix well together. Feng Lin activated his stone monkey gene and unleashed his abilities. The suppression of vitality stats sent out waves of pressure, causing everyone to be shocked as they retreated and even had difficulty breathing. Manager Frank, seeing that we were once colleagues, I will allow you all to leave as long as you pass me the control authority of the flying shuttle, as well as the secrets of the ancient mythological ruins. If not, you guys would definitely be tortured until death if any of you were to land in the hands of the Mars Revolutionary Army. If you don't agree, don't blame me for not showing any mercy. Feng Lin sinisterly spoke. He alone was enough to pose a threat to everyone here. To think that you are already an interstellar cultivator, you have truly hid yourself extremely deeply. Frank narrowed his eyes upon feeling the vitality stat suppression by Fenglin. His gaze was filled with venom. Seems like I've truly underestimated you and hired a thankless wretch. Capture him for me. Frank suddenly roared, and the clone soldiers instantly rushed forward to attack. Frank and Yak coldly laughed. It was like they had already seen the scene of Fenglin dying to these clone soldiers. However, their eyes widened at the next moment. Don't waste my time. Fenglin laughed and punched out with his fists. Sky-flipping hammer imprint. He instantly unleashed a killing move. His punch force was as heavy as a gigantic mountain. Those clones were instantly swept away with their chests caved in as they died instantly. What? Yak was shocked and angered. Shoot him to death quickly. The remaining clone soldiers respectively took out their ray guns and shot Fenglin. The fiery beams of energy intersected, but Fenglin simply stood unmoving at his original location. His entire body shone with a jade-like luster, completely blocking the energy rays, suffering no damage at all. Bang, bang, bang. He flicked his fingers and created formless air currents that acted like bullets shooting toward the researchers. These egg humans were extremely soft and fragile. Their bodies were soon riddled with wounds as blood dripped everywhere, and they fell to the ground one after the other. Once he acted, Fenglin naturally wouldn't show any mercy and would go all out, starting a massacre. Chapter 118, Massacre. Flee, quickly flee. That person is a madman. The energy fluctuation radiating from him has already reached the level of an interstellar cultivator. The air bullets shot through the air, flying as fast as real bullets and were as dense as raindrops in a shower. Their destructive might was extremely great. Those researchers all fled in disarray. As powerful as a ferocious tiger, as fierce as an evil wolf. The moment Fenglin revealed his true face, he began a massacre, frenziedly reaping lives away. These researchers looked as though they lacked even the strength to truss a chicken, but all of them were cold-blooded murderers. It was unknown how many humans they had sacrificed in the name of science. Fenglin didn't feel the slightest psychological burden at all when he killed them. Those who are evil would naturally have bad karma. If one wanted to kill evil people, they sometimes might have to be even eviler than their targets. Enough. Fenglin acted too swiftly. Before Frank could react in time, he saw the elites of the giant pharmaceutical company being killed left and right. Frank instantly flew into a rage. Green Giant, kill him. Rumble. The green giant over 3 meters tall leaped out, causing the ground to tremble. His muscular body blocked the area before Fenglin, acting as a shield against those air bullets. Those researchers, who were fortunate enough to still be alive, ran and crawled as they hurriedly moved far away. They wanted nothing more than to be as far away as possible from Fenglin. Their faces were filled with terror. Fenglin, I've truly underestimated you. Frank pushed everyone aside as he walked over. He had a high-tech monocle over his right eye and was currently scanning Fenglin. The data soon appeared and Frank exclaimed in shock, Vitality stats 45.8. I didn't expect someone so young like you to have already reached the mid-phase of the interstellar cultivator realm. How impressive. Although he was praising Fenglin, his tone was filled with cruel killing intent. A vitality stats scanner. Fenglin instantly recognized the monocle and understood that it was a high-grade combat equipment, allowing the user to completely scan his opponent's statistics. It was actually able to tell that he was in the mid-phase of the interstellar cultivator realm. Every upgrade in the interstellar cultivator realm was considered a huge improvement. Their base vitality would be multiplied by 10 times. For example, cultivation apprentices had vitality stats starting from 1. Interstellar cultivators had vitality stats starting from 10, and for elite cultivators, their vitality stats would start from 100. Each cultivation realm could be divided into 5 smaller phases based on the vitality stats: initial phase, middle phase, late phase, grand completion phase, paragon phase. For interstellar cultivators whose vitality stats were below 30, they were at the initial phase. If it was ranged from 30 to 60, they would be in the middle phase. Likewise, 60 to 90 would be considered the late phase. For late-phase interstellar cultivators, their control over their genetic abilities had already reached a very mature state, and they could choose to evolve into a higher gene sequence. However, this didn't mean that they had reached the limits of their current cultivation realm. If one's vitality stats exceeded 90 at the interstellar cultivator realm, that would mean that they were in the grand completion phase. At this stage, a person could completely control their genetic abilities to the point of perfection, and their genes could stimulate their life force, allowing their vitality stats to be increased to a stage only a few could achieve. However, this wasn't the final phase. Above the grand completion phase, there was still the paragon phase. If one's vitality stat reached 100 at the interstellar cultivator realm, they would have reached the absolute limits and would be invincible at their level, a perfect paragon. "Manager, kill him!" Yak roared from the side, his heart felt like bleeding. "These researchers took us so much effort to nurture, yet he killed so many of them." Frank stared at the corpses on the ground as his expression turned extremely grim. These people were different from those who were tossed into the lava. These were the true elites among the researchers. The loss of any one of them truly caused his heart to ache. "Green Giant, finish him!" Frank's eyes flashed, issuing an order to kill for the Green Giant. "Roar!" The Green Giant threw his head back and roared into the sky. The volume of this roar was truly deafening to the extreme. The powerful sound waves caused all the airflow to churn wildly. At the next instant, the Green Giant seemed to have turned into a wild beast and was galloping on all fours toward Feng Lin. "Match him?" A serene light flashed in Feng Lin's eyes. It was like a black hole that could devour the soul of his target. His mental energy gushed out, shooting forth from the center of his brows. His mental gene had already reached 9 points, causing Feng Lin's mental energy to be extremely powerful. It was like an invisible sword that directly pierced into the mind of the Green Giant. The Green Giant roared in pain, and his hands clutched his head as he rolled on the ground, screaming in agony. His head felt so painful that his brain was about to turn into glue. "What's happening?" Frank started. "Quickly kill this yellow-skinned brat. Kill these white people." Feng Lin also gave an order. The expression of the Green Giant contorted. He didn't know which order to obey. "Quickly kill him." Frank continued to give a command. "Kill them all." Feng Lin did the same thing. The two of them continued giving out orders which drilled their way into the mind of the Green Giant. The Green Giant didn't know who to obey. One was an instinct to obey, the other was a formless suggestion that kept echoing in his mind, causing him to want to obey as well. His expression drastically contorted as his ox-like eyes turned bloodshot. The crazed look in his gaze grew more and more intense. All of a sudden, he let out a roar and transformed into a crazy wild beast that started to destroy his surroundings. The Green Giant rolled over and jumped about, his huge fists acting like hammers, smashing everything he came in contact with. His terrifying strength was fully unleashed, causing the ground to tremble unceasingly. For those weak researchers who had survived up until now, they were extremely unlucky. They were respectively smashed into meat paste, although they hid extremely far away. After Feng Lin's massacre, the Green Giant started one of his own. "How did you manage to do that?" Frank's expression was extremely sinister. He discovered that he had completely lost all control over the Green Giant. I've embedded a microchip in the brain of the green giant. Why did he listen to your orders instead? What's so difficult about that? Feng Lin coldly laughed. Do you really think that I wouldn't have some precautionary measures when I crystallized the green giant potion? The green giant isn't merely a human-created killing machine, it's a living thing too. Mental control. Frank instantly understood. I should have thought about this earlier. Since you've awakened the mental gene, it shouldn't be too difficult for you to learn hypnotism. Yak, who was at the side, suddenly felt enlightened. In the past, did you use it on me to blur my negative feelings toward you? He suddenly thought of the ineffable goodwill he had felt toward Feng Lin before. Everything was too strange now that he thought about it. Feng Lin coldly laughed. You can still be considered not that dumb. Yak's expression turned malevolent. Bang! Feng Lin stomped heavily on the ground as he shot up in the air, directly lunging toward Frank. He formed gestures with both his hands. One hand is yang, the other is yin. Both yin and yang fused together, begetting boundless transformations. A formless ripple spread out, enveloping the surroundings. Frank and Yak were instantly affected, drawn by the countless changes of the hand gestures as their consciousness grew heavy. Yin-yang mirror imprint. Feng Lin instantly acted, wanting to gain the upper hand by a show of strength. To subdue a band of thieves, one had to first subdue the head of the thieves. As long as he subdued Frank, this battle would instantly end. Feng Lin also didn't want things to drag on. Yak's eyelids grew heavy as his consciousness blurred. He was about to fall asleep. Wake up! Frank suddenly roared. A bright light flashed across his eyes as he instantly awakened from the stupor and hurriedly lengthened the distance between him and Feng Lin. Upon seeing this, Feng Lin felt somewhat of regret, but he wasn't too surprised. The mental gene was only a basic gene. Although he strengthened it to 9 points and had exceeded the limit, it was not too probable that it would be able to hypnotize an interstellar cultivator who had awakened a primeval gene. Since his opening gambit failed, Feng Lin changed his techniques. Both of his hands were as though they were boneless, resembled great pythons as they shot out toward Frank, wanting to capture him. Immortal binding rope imprint. His arms twined together, forming a dead knot that was almost impossible to undo. It felt like even immortals in the legends would be captured. This move caused one's target to be completely immobile. Bang! A white beam of light flashed. What? To his shock, Feng Lin discovered that a pair of holy-looking, pure white wings actually appeared on Frank's back all of a sudden. The feathers on the wings were as sharp as blades and were as tough as cold steel. They wrapped around Frank protectively. Feng Lin forcefully grabbed onto the snowy wings as sparks appeared. But with a flap of the wings, a burst of generated strength forced Feng Lin away. Swish, swish, swish. The wings flapped rapidly, generating a small-scale hurricane. Frank continued to soar upward, floating in the sky, staring down imperiously at Feng Lin. His eyes turned a silvery white, and there were no other emotions on his face. He was like an angel from heaven, peering down at the mortal world. Chapter 119, Angel. The pure white wings flapped, causing gusts of wind to manifest. Frank actually transformed into an angel and was high up in the air, looking down at Feng Lin imperiously. Angel Gene. Feng Lin stared at this scene in shock as vigilance filled his heart. As expected of a genius I hired, you are able to instantly tell the gene I have awakened. Frank felt that victory was already within his grasp as he coldly laughed. Feng Lin, if you thought you can do anything you want to just because you are at the mid-phase of the interstellar cultivator realm, you are far too naive and have grossly overestimated yourself. You have also underestimated our giant pharmaceutical company's foundation. Since you knew about the miraculous effects of the ancient divine medicine, how could I not have consumed it? After eating it, I awakened the angel gene. This is a variation-grade primeval gene. You should feel proud at being able to force me to reveal my true form. Next, just prepare to obediently wait for your death. You speak too much nonsense. Feng Lin coldly interrupted, not retreating but choosing to advance as he seized the initiative to make the first move. All the antagonists in movies always died due to wanting to speak too much. Who cared if Frank had angel gene or devil gene? As long as he blocked his path, Feng Lin wouldn't show mercy. He was nothing but a birdman. Since this was the case, let's exterminate this bird then. Vedra Dragonclaw. Feng Lin's hands took the shape of claws as he sliced out with it. His claw force spread through the air, attacking his opponent. Frank was floating in the air and had a look of arrogance on his face. He didn't realize the swiftness and ferociousness of Feng Lin's long-distance attack. A bloody scar soon appeared on his face as he fell down to the ground. His feathers were ruffled and he cut a sorry figure. How dare you? He forcefully stabled himself. His hair and face were now stained with dust. He then flew up in the air again as he roared in rage, "You are courting death." His wings flapped powerfully as his feathers gleamed, becoming erect as they shot forth like a rain of bullets, aiming for Feng Lin. Feng Lin just wanted to evade, but all of a sudden, a heavy pressure akin to a giant mountain bore down on him, restricting his movements. Gravity gene. Feng Lin recalled the other genetic ability which Frank possessed. Clearly, Frank wanted to control his movements, making it so that he couldn't dodge the attack. Since this was the case, he would rather choose not to dodge. He placed his arms before his chest, acting like a shield to protect his vital areas as his skin tightened, revealing a jade-like luster covering his entire body. Bang, bang, bang. The sounds of metal clashing were akin to a heavy gale in a thunderstorm. The feathers slammed into Feng Lin, but at the moment of impact, all of them were bent out of shape and fell to the ground instead. Other than Feng Lin's clothes being tattered and torn, he wasn't injured in the slightest. What? The smile on Frank's face vanished. His sure-kill strike was instantly rendered ineffective, causing him to be stunned. Did Feng Lin awaken a body-strengthening gene? As an experienced interstellar cultivator, Frank's judgment wasn't bad. He could instantly tell a part of the stone monkey gene's abilities. The toughness of Feng Lin's body had exceeded his imaginations. Even his feathers that were as tough as steel weren't able to penetrate Feng Lin's body. The feathers were as dense as raindrops in a shower. With such a huge quantity of feather attacks, Feng Lin endured them one by one. In the end, he was only left with a tattered-looking underwear. All his other clothes had been torn into pieces. His almost naked body was revealed. His muscles were well-proportioned and he had an athletic body like a human-shaped ancient monkey, filled with strength and the beauty of wildness. As an interstellar cultivator, Feng Lin naturally wouldn't mind the circumstances. He continued launching attacks, giving no regards to his naked body. Come at me. Every punch unleashed a transparent punch force that could be seen clearly by the naked eye. The streams of air erupted forth with the power of air cannons as they rushed up to the sky. Thunderous explosions rang out continuously in rapid succession. Upon seeing this, Frank wrapped his wings protectively around him, blocking this violent storm of punch force. Seeing that his feathers could do nothing to Feng Lin, Frank moved his hands, forming a shape resembling a cross and placed them before his chest. A resplendent light grew brighter and brighter, manifesting in the hearts of his palms. A sinner that profaned God's blood. I shall judge your sins in the name of God. Under this holy light, prepared to be purified. Frank chanted loudly as he pushed out with his palms. Angelic holy light fist. A brilliant beam of piercing pure white light like the divine light from the kingdom of heaven instantly flooded the area, cleansing the mortal world. Frank punched out with his fist, and a pillar of white light engulfed Feng Lin. Feng Lin's arms were held protectively before his face as he collided with the attack head-on. This white light contained an incredibly scorching heat and had the terrifying energy that could purify anything. Feng Lin felt a piercing pain all over his body, like he was pricked by needles. The holy light was like tumors, killing all the healthy cells that came in contact with it. Under the radiance of the holy light's judgment, Feng Lin was like an evil creature that was about to be thoroughly purified. As expected of a variation-grade primeval gene, Feng Lin involuntarily sighed. This was the first time he had suffered such a huge energy impact, and it truly caused him to feel surprised. Feng Lin fully activated the stone monkey genes impervious to fire and water to the max. The faint layer of luster that appeared acted as a shield against the holy light, not allowing the holy light to seep into his body. Frank continued with his barrage of attacks. His wings flapped as he flew around in the air. The holy light beams were launched from all directions, completely engulfing Feng Lin. Feng Lin was buried within. Looking that there was no commotion for a long time, it seemed that the purification had worked. After some time, Frank retracted his wings. But just as he was about to land, a sense of danger suddenly appeared in his heart as he hurriedly fled into the air again. The holy light radiance faded away. A naked body could be seen standing on the ground. If this wasn't Feng Lin, who would it be? What? The holy light is no longer effective? Frank was startled. What genes did this Feng Lin awaken exactly? He actually suffered no injuries? Frank suddenly started to panic for no reason at all. Get down for me. During the time when Frank was distracted, Feng Lin squatted and leaped in the air. His hands that were in the shape of claws rapidly grabbed over. Frank couldn't react in time, and a large number of feathers were ripped from his wings, causing a large patch of baldness that was extremely ugly to behold to appear in one of his wings. Even if you are a birdman, I'm going to strip you of all your feathers, making you become a bald bird. Feng Lin grimly spoke. His hand was in the shape of a claw and ruthlessly slashed out as the claw force traveled through the air toward Frank. Holy Light Shield. Frank activated a shield of holy light to block the force from the air. Contrary to the circumstances, Feng Lin actually gained the advantage and he naturally wouldn't be polite. His strength seemed boundless as he continued with his claw attacks, repeatedly launching attacks until the light of the holy shield dimmed before it fell into pieces. After a short exchange of blows, he could see some of the flaws of the angel gene. Those with the angel gene possessed the ability to fly, and they could control the energy of holy light. However, this wasn't without flaws. This angel gene was only a variation-grade gene. It wasn't a perfect gene. Also, Frank only had a pair of wings and could be considered as the lowest grade among angels. His abilities wouldn't be too strong, and there was sure to be a weakness. Feng Lin discovered that although Frank's vitality stats were evidently higher than his, he remained floating in the air, not daring to come down. What did this mean? Clearly, Frank was afraid of close combat. He didn't dare to get close to Feng Lin because his body was weak. When he discovered this, Feng Lin's eyes brightened. Since you don't want to come down, let me go up to meet you then. His aura changed. After storing power, he leaped high into the air, rapidly traveling upward to a height even higher than Frank. His body then flipped upside down, resembling a shooting star falling from the sky. One of his hands lashed out heavily like a whip, infused with his overwhelming strength. Bzz, bzz, bzz. Even before the whip arrived, a white scar could already be seen in the air as explosions rang out. God-beating whip imprint. Feng Lin's eyes locked onto his target, and a vicious look appeared on his face. So what even if you are a lofty angel from the legends? I'm going to whack you so badly until you fall into the mortal world. Chapter 120. Smack you so hard that you fall into the mortal world. The whip imprint contained a force of 10,000 caddies. Feng Lin's body was like a shooting star, plummeting down the sky. One of his arms was used as a whip, wanting to smack this birdman down from the heavens, smashing him into the ground by breaking his wings. Boom! The hand whip collided with the holy light shield. It was like the collision between the strongest spear against the strongest shield, causing a huge wave of impact. Gotcha! Frank's expression continuously changed, becoming that of panic. A crack visible to the naked eye could be seen on the holy light shield. Get down for me. A cruel grin appeared on Feng Lin's face. The whip lashed out with tyrannical might, ruthlessly slamming into Frank's wings. One of his wings was instantly broken. Feng Lin then held on to Frank as they rapidly plummeted down the air. Frank was incomparably fearful, and he struggled wildly, wanting to free himself from Feng Lin's grasp. However, Feng Lin's hands were like pythons, tightly winded around him, causing Frank to be unable to struggle free at all. In fact, the more he struggled, the tighter it felt. This caused Frank to have some difficulty breathing, and he was about to suffocate. If this continued on, Frank knew he would die for sure. Hence, he felt fear and extremely panicked now. As a possessor of the angel gene, he naturally knew his abilities best. The angel gene could control holy light and grant the ability of flight. However, his body wasn't considered tough at all. If he had to fight against someone in close combat, there usually should still be no problem. But just so luck would have it that Feng Lin's gene was a body-strengthening gene that caused the toughness of his body to rise to the limits. It was so strong that it could even be described as inhuman. Also, if they landed on the ground, he would no longer be in his element. You should die. He tried his best to struggle free, yet Feng Lin's limbs were tightly binding him, causing him to be unable to move. All of a sudden, he drew in a deep breath and opened his mouth. Rays of pure white light could actually be seen gathering within. Holy light cannon. Frank then opened his mouth and blasted out a beam of powerful light. Feng Lin instinctively shut his eyes. With such a close distance, he had no way to dodge it. His eyes still felt pain despite him closing his eyelids. Good chance. Seeing that Feng Lin was closing his eyes, how could Frank let go of such a good opportunity? He focused all the energy of his angel gene on his wings. All of a sudden, a blast of holy energy was unleashed, causing a storm of commotion as he tried to struggle free. Feng Lin's hands were forced away, and Frank hurriedly took the chance to lengthen the distance between them as he flapped his wings rapidly, wanting to be as far as possible from Feng Lin. Holy flame. Holy light illumination. Holy light punishment. Frank flew high up into the air. There were about 100 meters between him and the ground, so high that it was impossible for Feng Lin to get near to him. His entire body radiated light and continuously unleashed ruthless attacks. The formless holy light blasting from his wings transformed into all sorts of energy, light, fire, lightning, as they frenziedly blasted at Feng Lin. The amount of holy light was as vast as an ocean. Feng Lin was buried completely within the holy light energy once again. So what even if you can resist the rush of energy impact? Frank wanted to see how long Feng Lin could resist it. As an interstellar cultivator, Frank naturally understood a point. In all the abilities of the world, there was only the difference between weaker and stronger. There were no such things as invincibility. If there truly was an invincible ability in the world, the possessor would have to be a god. But could this brat be a god? Naturally not. There were limits to all sorts of abilities. He was extremely confident in the power of his angel gene, and it was impossible for it to be weaker compared to the other genes. Frank unleashed holy light with all his might, wanting to use an overwhelming barrage of attacks to crush Feng Lin's defense. In truth, his speculations were correct. The boundless holy light closed in on Feng Lin from all directions. Feng Lin felt that he had fallen into an ocean of energy and would drown any time. Although the stone monkey gene was powerful and had the ability to be impervious to fire and water, there was also a limit to it. Also, the energy output and the intensity of the holy light were so high that it had already gradually surpassed the limits of what Feng Lin could resist. He felt that even his skin, which was akin to the properties of stone, was soon to be melted away. His resistance wasn't strong enough. It must be because the strengthening tally of the stone monkey gene wasn't high enough. In that case, let's add some points to it then. The stone monkey gene was similarly a variation grade gene, so there wasn't too much difference innately in comparison. At this time, the one who would claim victory would be the person who had strengthened their gene the most. Luckily, Feng Lin still had the 2 free genetic points he had saved in the past. Let's add a point first then. Feng Lin instantly did so. The strengthening tally of the stone monkey gene went from 3 to 4, and his vitality stat climbed from 45.8 to 54.6, an increase of 8.8. Upon adding the genetic point, Feng Lin felt a transformation in his body. From within, currents of warmth circulated around, allowing him to recover rapidly. A layer of flowing light could be seen radiating from Feng Lin's skin, forming an isolation barrier that blocked the holy light outside, not allowing them to seep in. The pressure on Feng Lin lessened greatly, and he stood up. But at this moment, a spear formed from holy light pierced over. Feng Lin grabbed it with a single hand, crushing the tip of the spearhead forcefully, causing it to disintegrate into motes of light. He slowly walked out from the ocean of energy, and he radiated a kind of divine charm that rendered him isolated from everything else. What? Frank was startled, not daring to believe that Feng Lin wasn't injured in the slightest despite that barrage of attacks he had been launching for such a long time. Angel gene, as a kind of variation grade gene, had the ability to control holy light. This was an extremely terrifying energy, and the strengthening tally of his angel gene was at 3 points. How could it not be able to beat Feng Lin's genetic abilities? Frank didn't dare to get near and continued using holy light to attack. But now, the strengthening tally of Feng Lin's stone monkey gene had already surpassed Frank's. Thus, he didn't fear Frank at all. Both were variation grade gene, let's bring it on then. Frank transformed holy light energy into all kinds of attacks. Feng Lin's expression was calm, countering every move as he saw them. No matter how intense and fiery the holy light energy was, all of them were dissipated as he now completely possessed the advantage. However, it was also impossible for him to win in a short period of time. The power of flight was the most common ability of the angel gene. Yet now, it had actually become the most troublesome issue Feng Lin was facing. Frank was high up in the air, and Feng Lin had no way to get near him. It was truly troublesome to the extreme. And hence, the two of them was temporarily deadlocked in this position. Feng Lin knew that they had to settle this as quickly as possible. If not, when the Mars Revolutionary Army invaded here, none of them would be able to escape. Feng Lin didn't want to have any more things to do with the Mars Revolutionary Army. He knew that although the Mars Revolutionary Army appeared to be invincible now, they were destined to fail. This was because the Solar System Coalition government had yet to interfere. The coalition government was a unit that gathered the entirety of strength from the solar system. Regardless of weaponry, science and technology, or resources, they weren't an opponent the Mars Revolutionary Army could match. One must know that Mars was only considered one of the smallest planets in the solar system. Eh? Feng Lin swept his gaze over. He suddenly discovered that Yak was standing in his original location in shock. Yak didn't cultivate at all, thus, he was unable to extricate himself from this situation no matter what. However, given how intense Frank and Feng Lin was battling, Yak was actually completely uninjured? This wasn't a coincidence. Could it be? Feng Lin stared at Frank, with a teasing look of amusement in his eyes. It was Frank who intentionally wanted to move the battle further from Yak. Because Yak was his personal assistant, he didn't want Yak to die. Now that Feng Lin realized what was going on, he instantly moved toward Yak. Frank also immediately discovered Feng Lin's intentions, and he couldn't help but cry out in alarm. The beams of holy light energy continued shooting over, but Feng Lin dissipated them all. After reaching Yak, he hoisted Yak up in the air with a single hand and used him as a sandbag, tossing him in the direction of Frank. Frank's attacks were obstructed. If Yak was hit by any of the holy light beams, his body would be purified into nothingness. Just as he wanted to fly toward Yak to receive him, Feng Lin's silhouette suddenly flashed. In the middle of the air, he used Yak's body as a springboard and launched himself further up in the air. Yak's body was flung toward the ground from the reverse force, slammed into the ground with the force of a cannon. His bones all shattered, and it appeared that he would most definitely die. Abominable. Frank trembled in rage. But Feng Lin was getting closer and closer to him every second. Holy light shield. Feng Lin exerted force from his waist. With a violent twist, he launched out a fist attack from the Vedra subduing devil fist and caused the holy light shield to shatter into pieces. Feng Lin twisted his body and somehow managed to position himself behind Frank's back. With a fearsome pull, a bloody wing actually appeared in his hand. Frank roared in pain and agony as he fell to the ground. A phoenix that had lost its feathers was no better than a chicken. An angel with his wings broken. Was Frank still an angel?